Hi squids and octokids. In this guide we want to look at a few small but important tricks that are so simple that I decided to cover them all together in this one video. As a matter of fact, they all utilize the same in-game mechanics, so it makes sense to mention them without separation. We want to start off with ledge snapping, which is actually the hardest variation, but I believe it's also the most well known. So you've probably noticed that when you swim up a wall and transition over to flat ground when reaching the top, that it takes some time until you can start swimming again. Most of that delay comes from the time which you spent being in the air when you leap up from the wall surface. As you might have guessed, you can skip all of that air time and shorten the window in which you are not able to move. To perform the ledge snap, you have to let go of the ZL button to turn into kid form right before your submerged squid reaches the ledge where the wall ends. And if done correctly, your character will snap up to the flat ground on top. From there on, you have access to all of your move pool again and you can continue your regular gameplay from this point. That is basically the whole trick already, however the execution is rather tricky to optimize. The later you let go of the ZL button, the safer this technique is, but obviously the time save is also smaller. On the other hand, if you trigger kid form too early, you end up not snapping at all, and that costs you even more time than just doing it without the tech. So it is very crucial that you get used to the right timing and not mess up your movement. Even when the input is risky and the time save looks insignificant, it could be just this split second that can make the difference in a match of Clan Blitz or Rainmaker, or to simply win a chase down scenario when you have to reach a certain place quickly. And just the overall time save from all the ledges you climbed during your matches can really add up in total. Once you master this technique and implement it into your gameplay, you will quite literally have the edge over everyone who doesn't utilize this. Anyway, as I mentioned, that was just the hardest use of this trick, and we will now look at an easier variation, which will also explain why the snapping tech even works. So what if we swim up a wall and we want to end up on a grid instead of solid ground? Well, the video title gave it away already, but there is also grid snapping. This works exactly the same as ledge snapping, with the difference that on grids you can only walk and not swim. The maximum time saved by walking is much smaller as compared to swimming in the previous variation, meaning that in return the risk is also smaller, which overall makes the tech easier to perform. Since you are always inside the grid already when you pass through it from below, all you have to care for is that the little line on your ink tank icon is above the grid you want to snap to. If that's the case, then you can already let go of your ZL button and you should make it up. Not only is it faster to get up, but the grid will also detect you as standing on it. This effect is especially important in Rainmaker and tower control. Since in most places the score only updates once you touch the ground when carrying the Rainmaker cannon, you want the next platform to detect you as standing on it to confirm the score for the distance you made. And for fighting over the possession of the objective and tower control, it comes in handy that the tower always has a small grid surrounding its top, so that you can make use of grid snapping to get detected as standing on it as soon as possible. And while we're already speaking of it, let's get to the final variation of this technique. We now know that we can come from forward and backwards off of walls, but what if there is no wall in the first place? It turns out we can actually perform grid snapping in mid-air, because if you haven't noticed, the wall wasn't even a factor to begin with. Sticking to that tower control example, we can just jump straight at the tower grid, and if we somehow manage to get enough height, we can initiate the grid snapping tech and end up possessing the tower in the fastest way possible. There are some other minor uses of the mid-air snapping, but the one at the tower is by far the most important to know about. And before we wrap this up here, I want to remind you that I can only do more guides when you watch and share my playlist among all your squid friends to make them better, because my previous guide about substrafing took me 3 months to make, and it's a shame that the numbers on that in no way reflect my efforts. I think you all know where that ends when you don't do your part to it, so at least leave a like or a comment and obviously make use of the provided knowledge. With that said, thanks for watching, and yeah, use my playlist that should be linked on screen right now. Thanks for the help, and see you in the next video. Goodbye.